Totalized means completed, or to reach a state of fullness, totality, oneness, to be whole. Consciousness. We understand this to be many things: self-consciousness, self-image, consciousness of our relation to others, consciousness of the structures and systems of society that shape and define the parameters of what we can even call selfhood. Material world means the only physical historical time that we inhabit, the world of rocks, water, trees, fish, grass, and blood, all that surrounds us. I refer to a kind of consciousness that has reached a state of oneness and totality in the world constrained by its conditions, its circumstances, where people are of a collective mind, a collective understanding of the ways in which the material world has caused and shaped our lives to be and driven us to take certain actions. Awareness of how these actions have come to be taken in earnest by the deprivations caused by poverty and suffering within the alienating capitalist system. The consciousness that also rests within our subjectivity, subjects to the material world and yet existing in a sort of hopeless superposition, being both part of the world and outside of it in our minds. What is in the world? All of humanity. Every adversary, every ally, every person who has died and will die, who has contributed to the marching forward of collective human activity and who will ever contribute in the future. The world is also everything around humanity. It is the oceans, the rivers, the grass, the mountains, the flora and fauna of which we exercise the right of might to take and convert into material for commodity production. The world exists within us as much as we exist within it. The world is shaped, changed, converted, and perverted into forms made useful by human hands and human needs, as well as the whims of the drive for profit by those who own the means of production used in the process of creation. Because history will continue until it reaches its end, of which the bourgeoisie have tried many times to herald the coming of. This false end is merely an attempt to stifle the revolutionary forces stirring within society. It is an illusion, fictitious, misrepresenting of reality that those in power would want us in dismay to resign ourselves to. History, human activities, in their wholeness and separateness, will have to contend with and understand the Enlightenment, as well as feudalism, as well as slave societies, as well as colonialism, imperialism, capitalism, and with what comes after. We communists desire a future, seek out a future, materially, a future where man has overcome his enslavement to those at the top of the totem pole. The hogs who clutch to the leashes of workers and hoard resources so they may circumvent the incoming material polycrises. The hogs who pull the great beached carcass, the undead land whale that insists upon itself, for no one's sake other than its own reification in the hearts, minds, and crucially, in the time, effort, and energy and bodies of humankind. Human beings are the most exploited natural resource on the planet, even more than oil, fish, lumber, materials, etc. The meat and bones and tendons of human beings are what greases the gears necessary to run the machines that fabricate our commodities. A creature, an animal cursed with mighty intelligence, must labor to create commodities, is itself a commodity. Man's body is bred, developed, nurtured, and shaped by growth and nutrients in diet and exercise. It is also used up, burnt, and turned into ash, chemically broken down. As man shapes the tools necessary to create more commodities and machines, so too do the tools and commodities the machines shape man himself. We are further enslaved by the process of labor, not just the reasons for labor to which we find necessary to survive in the modern capitalist state, but the action is itself what we are tasked with revolutionizing. The action is informed by relation. The relation is informed by material conditions. The material conditions set the parameters by which we breathe air, fit into our shoes, speak the language we are enculturated into, determine our capacity for erosion and self-destruction that is inevitable with the formulation of such social dynamics as class struggle. It is through the erosion of the proletariat's mind and soul, the idea that there could be something more than this, something more than the current lived experience and measured reality, that the bourgeoisie, the writers of our fate, have won the game. The great game of selection by the forces of the market economy and capitalist grindstone. The economy is God, our own social God. The God that is present in the collective labor force of millions and billions of other people is only there and exists in this vacuum of what we cannot control individually. Collective control of the means of production is a product, the outcome of historical trends that lead us to decide as a group, as a tribe, as a village, that we must act in accordance with what is best for the whole. What is good for the group is also good for the individual, because the individual benefits from that which benefits the whole of the group. Our collective labor should not be used to fill the pockets of modern-day slave owners, property owners, and landlords, the leaders of the previous revolution in the previous epoch of society, that is, to bring out the conditions for revolutionary change. The waves coming up the beach. The water is moved, not by some spiritual guidance that rests within the mystical being that controls the world's oceans, but by the physical, chemical, and gravitational forces that erect the boundaries and confines of a system. So too does the worker come into contact with opposing natural forces, other human beings in organization with one another, that the worker must carve away at the great gluttonous whole share of bourgeois profits to eke out a meager living. The water is composed of individual atoms, molecules, a loose liquid structure that moves together and is impacted on by forces around them. They are affected by conditions and will fill in gaps and weather shores and stone down to pebbles and grains of sand. Humanity is an ocean of thinking, feeling actors on a stage set in motion by the gravitational forces of history. However, we are able to recognize ourselves and act within the world with some degree of agency, unlike the molecules of water that make up the world's oceans. We can give meaning to actions, give title to structure, and give life to movements. We pour ourselves into the collective, and the whole will feel the overwhelming movements like the rising tides pushed and pulled by the moon. A totalized consciousness is possible. It has to be yearned for. It has to be imagined, it has to be felt, it has to be recognized in the death throes of the imperialist world system. It has to be so, or else all of humanity will perish like an ant on the pavement. All of humanity must free themselves from the chains of millennia. Workers are the blood of the economy. Workers are the cells that die and are reborn in order to maintain the organism for its finite lifetime. We communists seek der Wille zur Macht, the will to power. That we reach self-overcoming, sublation of our previous material conditions, to reach a higher stage of human history and human society. Cultural revolution of the individual within the collective, a collective will to power, a will to communal power, where humanity has become the great village, and not just our minds are pushed through to another level, but that our bodies, our conditions, will reach supersession and give way to a new world. A totalized consciousness, not just rejections of what was before, but complete synthesis with the old and the new, so that we may progress forward onto the widest horizon known to us, a breadth of which workers and toilers and slaves never knew. And this revolution must come from our own hands, feet, and mouths, conditions which force upon us change, but the character of this new stage of human development must be seized at the helm and guided with strength of knowledge, wisdom, courage, understanding, and love.